Welcome to the Bobby O Show. My name is Bob Potzner. I'm an attorney still practicing law after about 40 plus years. And I have a phenomenal guest for us today who is going to do the second part of a two-part series of shows, although she reminded me before the show, it's actually her third appearance.
Yes.
And so I'm going to allow her to make that correction, probably the only one she can make that I'll allow the rest of the show. Her name is Veronica Reich. Veronica is a friend of mine forever, who's also a lawyer, and who lives in dual citizenship, both in Israel and the United States. We're going to get a little bit of her background as we get into the show. This will be a lively show, as we all know, because first of all, anyone who knows Veronica and me, they would know nothing could be other than lively when we talk, but we did have a lively discussion, because there are some points of view that we have different about what's going on in Israel right now, and that's part of the purpose of today's show, is to discuss Israel, not just from a perspective of Israel's always right, but rather we talk about the whole situation, because none of us is perfect, except for Veronica Reich. Veronica, welcome aboard.
You're too kind. Thank
Welcome.
you.
And I really appreciate you coming on the show. Veronica's going back to Israel next week.
Wednesday.
And so we squeezed you in and you squeezed us in to have a show for today. So Veronica, just let's start off with a little bit about yourself. You don't have to give the whole spiel, but a little about yourself, because some folks may not, shockingly enough, may not have seen this show last week.
Understood.
Okay.
Well, I've lived in the United States for most of my years, and I'm a very proud American and would never, ever give that up. But for a variety of reasons, a few years ago, I became a dual citizen. So I am a citizen of Israel and a citizen of the United States. I'm actually an immigrant. I was born in Budapest, Hungary, and my parents were Holocaust survivors who got stuck behind the Iron Curtain and then got out during the Hungarian Revolution in 1956. Worked very, very hard when they came to America and built a good life and got me educated, and I became an attorney, partly because I just love to talk, which is another reason to do this show. And I got married. I have 2 wonderful adult children and 3, of course, superior grandchildren. And right now I go back and forth between the United States, so I really primarily to see my family. And I spend most of my time in Israel now.
Thank you. That's a very truncated explanation, because you have
It
done a
is.
lot. You've done a lot of things. I know that you've worked for many years as a guardian ad litem or attorney
I
for the
have.
minor children in the Connecticut court system. Veronica and I have had a few cases against each other, but we've never gone to trial against each other. I was afraid.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
But I want to start off, there's one thing we left off from our prior show, and that is I'd made you a commitment before the prior show that you believe that one of the problems that Israel has right now is that there are many pieces of misinformation about Israel that you think are making it difficult for Israel to do what it thinks it needs to do for the best of the world and Israel. So I want to start off out of order, sort of, and go right to what I promised you to make sure we don't forget.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
tell me, go like each time you have a misinformation point, let's stop and let's talk a little bit about that point.
Okay.
So let's take it over, and I'll be a partner of you in this show.
Okay, excellent. Well, it's incredibly disturbing to me and frankly mystifying why there is so much crazy, crazy misinformation out there in the entire world. And it's reflected in policies, and it's reflected in demonstrations, and it's reflected in the attitudes of people, and it's certainly reflected in the horrific rise of anti-Semitism in the United States and throughout the world. And one of those impossible slanders is that Israel is an apartheid state. And when we talk about apartheid, we need to know what we're talking about. What is the definition of apartheid? It is an institutionalized system of laws that separates people on either a religious or a racial, ethnic basis. For instance, even going back to the Civil War, there were laws, there was slavery. That was a form of apartheid, although the word was not in vogue yet. It became much more in vogue in South Africa. And there was institutionalized legal racism. Blacks and whites were totally separated by law, couldn't marry, and a number of things that are well known. And then history took over, and that's no longer the situation there. It was never the situation in the state of Israel. Israel is not an apartheid state. The Declaration of Independence of the State of Israel states that all citizens are equal and they all have equal rights. And 20% of Israel is Arab, and they are fully integrated into society. They're a full independent part of society. There are Arab judges on the Supreme Court. There are Arab members of the Knesset, that's the Israeli legislative body. Arabs work, they study, they live their lives as full and equal citizens, and they vote. They certainly vote. There are Arab parties in the Knesset. Where do you ever see that? And you know, apartheid, or being anti-apartheid, is one of the most important progressive and liberal values. People need to live together. If you look at the facts, those progressive and liberal values are found in the Middle East only in the state of Israel.
I want to stop you 1 second, because it's interesting to me that you started at the apartheid issue. Number one, because of all my grandparents, all are from Eastern Europe. I always say that instead of Poland because the lines changed.
Yeah.
But I have a grandma, Esther Jacobowitz, who was born in South Africa. And she moved to England, and I don't know, I guess when she came to the United States, my grandpa, Max Opachner, who became Max Opachner, they got married. So mentioning South Africa is one thing that rings true to me. And number two, one concern I've often had as a Jew for all these years is that I looked forward and I see what happened in South Africa, and I worry about the fact that I don't know how Israel can live successfully in Israel with that 20% Arab population, which is, I think, growing as fast, if not faster, than the Israeli population of
growing.
Yeah, and the concern I have is if Israel were to continue on the Bibi Netanyahu track, and we'll get to that in a few moments, it worries me about what the future could be for Israel. So I'm not saying Israel is apartheid, but I am worried about the long-term implications that may affect Israel.
Okay, and I think that's fair. We're all worried about long-term implications. But the immediate issue is Israel has been vilified. Israel has been demonized in the entire world, And part of that is because these facts are wrong. It's a slander against the state. There is not apartheid in Israel. In fact, there is the opposite of apartheid in Israel, where liberal progressive values are established by law. There are basic laws. We don't have a constitution, but we have basic laws. And the facts bear that out. I used to joke, more women fly F-15s in Israel than drive in Saudi Arabia. Now that's beginning to change, but women have full and equal rights. We've had women prime ministers. Women are everywhere and have full and equal rights in the country and are treated as such. There are no honor killings. There are no burqas enforced on women there. Women serve in the military and they serve in combat if they want to. Women are absolutely equal citizens.
Question, do they have Orthodox Jews in Israel? Of course they do, right?
Many, myself included among them.
And do they still have men and women sitting separately in temple in Israel?
Men and women sit separately in synagogues that adhere to the Orthodox tradition all over the world, including mine in Stamford, Connecticut. Now, there are many, many synagogues that decided not to have a physical barrier. There are many synagogues that have a physical barrier that I can't stand. I don't like women up in balconies. My synagogue in Israel is divided down the middle, and it's not, you don't feel like you're praying behind a burqa. It's, you could see people. The idea behind it is for all the rest of your life, you can interact with your family members, whoever you want. But for a couple hours that you devote to God, focus on what you're supposed to focus on.
And by the way, my question was not just about Israel.
Yeah.
Because what you said, I mean, my niece got married. She's what they call, I guess, a modern Orthodox Jew.
Modern Orthodox.
In New York State. So I just asked the question because I was just trying to follow through on a point you had made. Since we're both attorneys, let's go to your next misinformation.
Okay.
Unless you have more on the apartheid.
No, I mean, people must understand that those liberal progressive values exist only in Israel. Freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble, an independent judiciary, free and liberal media. Only in Israel, in the entire Middle East, will you find those liberal progressive values. In fact, you find the opposite. LGBTQ, there's a parade in Jerusalem every year, and in Tel Aviv. They're respected and they have equal rights. Doesn't exist anywhere in the Middle East except in Israel.
Well, it's funny, it's interesting you mention that because first of all, the United States right now, we could question, do we have a free and independent judiciary? Let me to get to that point.
Yes.
And the way the Supreme Court's acted in the United States, I'm wondering, as a believer in the rule of law, my question to you is, one of the problems that people talk about who attack Israel is the free and independent judiciary issue because of the role that Bibi Netanyahu has taken to try to take away the free and independent judiciary. So let's get to that misinformation that you want to attack me on. But it's a legitimate question I'm asking you.
It is. Of course it's a legitimate question. And before the October 7th war broke out, judicial reform was a tremendously divisive issue in Israel, and it still is.
Why is it? Why is this such a divisive issue?
Because, well, there's a lot of history behind it, which I can't go into right now, but people feel strongly about the right way to manage the country. We don't have a constitution, but we have a set of basic laws. And some people feel also that judges are given too much leeway and become legislators, just like there's a concern here.
It's a big concern here because if the way people who are, shall we say, the empowered, if they win a case, oh, the judges are wonderful. If they don't win a case, like right now, the Harvard decision yesterday, or the other day,
I saw that.
Where Trump's activities to stop Harvard from being, and by the way, as a Yale man and Duke Law School, I'm not a big Harvard fan, but I am a Harvard fan for what they've been trying to do to protect free and liberal education. I mean, there are issues, and that's why the discussion we're having today, I never would have dreamed we'd have this discussion a year ago, where we're worried about the judiciary. And you see on when I have my name on the screen, I believe in the rule of law. I'm speaking at the Southbury, Connecticut, Southbury Justice Organization on Sunday about the rule of law. And we can't throw stones at Israel, anyone can't, because we, the people of the United States of America, are seeing the possibility of losing that right of free independent judiciary.
Bob, you have to remember something. I am a passionate Zionist, but no one is going to claim that Israel is a perfect country. They have their problems. They have a multitude of problems. But don't forget, the United States has a 250 almost year history. Israel, the modern state of Israel, because Israel existed 3,000 years ago, but the modern state was established in 1948.
Right.
It's a young country. We're working through these issues, but we do work through them in a democratic way. We do have free and independent elections. And when people are divided passionately about an issue, like they are in the United States, it's like giving birth. It's painful and difficult, and
we're not going to get to giving birth today.
But you understand my point. It doesn't go smoothly, but Israel is the one that is making the efforts to do so.
Yeah, by the way, I'm not asking questions to attack Israel. I'm just asking questions to better understand.
Fair, and I want everyone to better understand. That's my point of my doing this.
When I got bar mitzvahed, my father in those days tell you what to do, right? I was told you're going to buy an Israeli bond or two, which I bought Israeli bonds with my bar mitzvah gifts. And I said, well, I get the money back. My father said, maybe you will and maybe you won't. And maybe a lot of us said, well, when it matured, roll it over.
Of course. And then it stopped accruing interest and you still didn't cash it in. I know.
Any more misinformation?
Yeah, lots. Ethnic
It's
cleansing.
only a 1 hour show, by the way, today.
I know.
Take your time. Take your
Okay.
time.
Israel's been accused of ethnic cleansing. Now, what is ethnic cleansing? I mean, there's a definition. It's a policy to remove, usually by terror, one group of people from a geographical area. You know what ethnic cleansing is? Ethnic cleansing is when, after 1948, 800,000 Jews were summarily tossed out of every Muslim majority country within 1,000 miles of Israel. And apologies to Indonesia, it's a Muslim majority country, but there weren't Jews there. That's ethnic cleansing. That's not what happens in Israel. It isn't. As I said, Arabs are an integral part of the country. Certainly we have problems. I'm not glossing over and saying it's all perfect. But the charge of ethnic cleansing, when Israelis, Jews, were subject to ethnic cleansing in a much more egregious way, is just not right.
And by the way,
nobody says boo about it. There was no UNRWA, there was no UN NGO established to help the Jews that were tossed out of every country. Nothing.
I was going to make that point. The allegation about Israel being ethically cleansing, that's their position, is so offensive. But now you said 75 years, but then you just corrected the statement because Jews have been tossed out of the country. Why do we have Passover, for example?
Because we were we were made slaves in Egypt, then we had to get out.
Right, that's the point.
And every empire since then, from the Romans to the Byzantines to the Christian Crusaders, Jews have been persecuted and hounded out of every country that they've ever been in, despite their contributions to every country.
And the first couple of minutes of today's show, you mentioned how there's a rise in anti-Semitism. I'm not sure if it's a rise. By that I mean, anti-Semitism has been there for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And I think part of what's going on in Israel, that's why I'm so mad at Bibi, because I think the things he's done and allowed to do, and you may correct some of my theories as to what he's done, but my perspective, as someone who loves Israel, is that he's making people who are anti-Semitic and have been anti-Semitic be saying, aha, now it can be anti-Semitic in public. And that's a concern I have for Israel. So to attack that as a misinformation piece.
It's a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
But Bibi Netanyahu, and by the way, I'm not an apologist for Bibi Netanyahu.
You're too smart to do that.
I have never voted yet in Israel because I missed the first election. I didn't have time.
No mail-in ballots in Israel? Wait a minute.
No. You go in person and you vote. But you don't vote for an individual, you vote for a party. It's a different system entirely. But you have to understand that Netanyahu right now is managing a war on several fronts. The state of Israel has been attacked, north, south, east, and west. And he's managing a war in the worst situation of urban warfare that the world has ever known. And he's attacked right and left by the members of his own party, by the opposition. It must be the worst job in the world. Really.
Tell me two things that you think Netanyahu has done that he should be attacked for. Tell me a couple of things that you think he's done wrong.
That he's done wrong.
Right.
I think there was a terrible breakdown before October 7th.
Agree.
That he should have known about and should have prepared for. And that's being investigated, and certainly none of us really know what's going on there. But I think that was a terrible failure.
And the 10 or 12 hour delay.
In getting the army to where they needed to be. It's a very complex issue, and there were lots of reasons. But clearly, what do they say? The fish stinks from the top or from the head? So ultimately, he is responsible for that, and he has to take responsibility for that, which I don't think he's really done.
No, I take it to I don't think he has not taken.
He has not taken. Okay, so there are a couple things right there that he has done.
I'm shocked, my friend, that it's 2 years. October 7th. I cannot believe. And how many hostages are still left alive that we know of?
Well, probably around 20. But there are 50 hostages, mostly bodies, unfortunately, that are still being held. And do not, under any circumstances, blame that on Bibi Netanyahu or on anything in Israel. Because if the world had cried out about those hostages the way they cry out about the destruction of Gaza, they'd be out already. What pressure was put on Hamas? 0.0 to get those hostages out. Nothing. And what they have learned with the movement to, quote unquote, recognize a Palestinian state, that kidnapping, rape, brutality, murder, abducting women and children, sending back a body that they called was Shiri Bibas and was some poor
horrible.
Gazan woman.
That was horrible.
It's inhuman.
And tell me, what is the Hamas charter?
The Hamas charter says to destroy the state of Israel. The Quran even says you must kill the Jews. Why does the world not believe it? When someone like that tells you what they want to do, why don't we believe it? And all of this stuff about a Palestinian state is not about independence for these so-called Palestinian people. It's not.
What is
It's
it about?
about the destruction of the Jewish state. That's what it is. And they're very clear. They're very clear in that. Why do we ignore that? They're clear in their charter. They're clear in their religious principles. They're clear in their actions. And they have said October 7th was a victory for us because everyone's blaming Israel. They invaded a country. They invaded an area where there wasn't a Jew left. Not a one. Not a civilian, not a soldier. Israel evacuated all of Gaza in 2005 because, oh yeah, land for peace. Give them land and maybe we'll have peace.
I think even though you're on the misinformation part, I think you should talk about what you just said in terms of vacating Gaza in 2005. Can you explain that?
Yes, it
Please.
was a concerted effort by the prime minister who passed away. Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Me too.
I'll remember in a
it'll
minute,
come to
but
you.
it will. But he was a notorious hawk, and he was the one that led the government, led the army, and evacuated Gaza because the
Israelis
evacuated Gaza. The population was primarily Arab. And there were some settlements, and beautiful settlements with businesses and infrastructure, all built by Jews. And they decided that the army was not going to support a small number of Jewish.
Who's the they? Who's the they? You said they.
The government. The government.
I knew that. I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yes, the government decided that it wasn't going to work, and maybe if we give them this land, if
Israel gives.
I should say evacuate. Maybe if we leave Gaza.
How big is Gaza land-wise?
It's tiny. The entire state of Israel is the size of New Jersey. It's a few miles. It's tiny.
So in 2005, the plan was by Israel was going to vacate Gaza.
In every way. They left the infrastructure. They left the homes. They left the businesses. They left the synagogues, everything intact. They took the Torah scrolls. They dug up graves of Jews that had died while they were living there in Gaza. They dug up graves and took them out. So Hitler couldn't have done a better job. Gaza was Judenrein, no Jews. And what did they do with that country?
They being, who's the
they? The Arabs.
I want you to clarify your pronouns.
I'm glad you do, because I could just, go on and on.
That's why I'm the Bobby O.
So what did they do? They turned it into a launching pad for terror. They dug tunnels that had no purpose except exporting terrorism, a system with electricity and everything you could imagine, larger than the entire London subway system.
Funded by whom?
Funded, that's a very good question. Funded by the rest of the world, by the billions, not millions, billions of dollars that the Palestinians received in aid, and by UNRWA, a United Nations segment.
What was the intention of the billions that was provided by the countries to Gaza?
Build a country.
I'm trying to
build
lead-
a country,
yeah.
build infrastructure, build churches, build not churches, but build mosques, build schools, build hospitals, build roads and bridges and infrastructure.
Like Israel did when they took.
Like, of course, like Israel did in 1948 and continues to do until today's date. Drain the swamps. You know, it's on the same strip of land as the French Riviera. As in Italy, you've been to Italy, the Amalfi Coast. It's the same Mediterranean.
I love Sorrento. Oh my
I
God.
know. It's gorgeous. They could have made it into one of the beauty spots of the world.
Why wasn't it done? Why wasn't that?
Okay, good question. I
I have two good questions so far.
Yeah. I believe it was done because they have no interest in building a state. They have an interest in destroying Israel. And that has been proven by in every single decade where the Arabs have been offered a state, many times that I can go through all the dates, and every single time they said no. Even when it was Clinton and
Excuse me, well, who says no? Is it the people? Is it the people
It's
of
the
Gaza?
leadership. It's
Right.
the leadership.
I want to make that distinction because I know a lot of people who are Arabs and Muslims and Lebanese and whatever, and the people who I know are wonderful, great people. I met some people last night.
I'm sure there are.
You know, and so I want to distinguish between the people from these other countries, and when you say the Arabs, whatever, from the leadership. Just like right now in the United States of America, I hope Europe and the rest of the world is distinguishing between Donald Trump and us. Okay?
Yes, although they're also divided. And I would point out, just as a side note, that even in Germany during World War II, there were many righteous Gentiles that helped Jews and often died for it or were tortured for it.
Schindler got the right. What did he get? Ben Schindler got
1,000 or so Jews out.
But I think he got what's the award from Israel? The righteous
Gentile.
There you go.
And yes, that was Oskar Schindler. And there are many. Sugihara, the Japanese consulate, was a righteous Gentile. There were many Poles.
The one who protected Anne Frank, I think, got a righteous. I think in any event.
And in any event, yes, there were many. Raoul Wallenberg. There were many people. However, since October 7th of 2023, there has not been one family, one person that came forward and released a hostage. And many of them were held in homes.
Are you referring to people who were, quote, civilians, unquote,
Of course.
in Gaza? You're saying that they knew where hostages were and they did not come forward and say, hey, come to this basement.
Come to the basement, or get a message out, or here's some food, and the Israeli lines are there. Gaza's not big. It didn't happen. And there was a huge reward offered, huge, millions of dollars, and no one took advantage of it. So I think they're inculcated to hate Israel. And they're inculcated from birth to resent Israel without knowing what's there or not there, and without ever acknowledging the good things that Israel has done and the good things Israel wants to do and the offers Israel has made. I guarantee that not one person in Gaza is aware of how many times they were offered a state and said no.
You've talked a lot about misinformation. I have some comments on what you said already, but I want to get into something, and that is this. As a Jew, as a supporter of Israel, I am horrified, or worse, by the deaths I'm seeing of starving children in Gaza and of the deaths that occur in Gaza. And I know you're going to probably say, or I suspect you're going to say that some people, how do you define civilian, right? How do you define who's a civilian and not? But Israel, from this Jew's perspective, a lover of Israel, proud Jew, I'm disgusted by some of the things I see on the newspapers or on TV, and you're going to say what you're going to say, but we as Jews must do better. I'd like you to comment upon what I just said and pile on if you want to yell at me if you can.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, take a shot.
Yes, Israel must do better. They must do better in everything. You know, they have to. But what most people don't realize is how much aid Israel has given to Gaza. And I think we have
maybe we have some video.
we have a
Maybe we have some slide.
chart. Yes, thank
Okay,
you. That's
thank
it.
you. What is this chart?
This chart shows what, and it's already a little outdated, the thousands of pounds of food and aid and everything that has gone into Gaza, and the thousands of trucks that have gone into Gaza to help. And people don't realize Israel provides electricity, water, everything to Gaza. Israel was the one that was attacked on October 7th.
Clearly.
Wait.
Clearly.
What other country in the world is expected to feed and take care of the population that attacked it? Anyone have an answer for that?
Well, you're not wrong about that, but
No.
you know what? Two wrongs don't make a right.
They don't. But on the issue of famine, okay?
I want to be on famine. That's what I'm
Yes, look closely. You know, it's kind of a magic thing that Israel has imposed a famine, but only on children. Because if you look at every single picture that comes out of Gaza right now, the adult Arabs, the ones that are holding the hostages, they're real well fed. They have these great big bellies. I'm telling you, look, don't close your eyes. Watch and listen and heed what they say. And those pictures of those starving children in Gaza, at least 2 of them were of children that had a genetic disease and were treated in Israeli hospitals.
Veronica, the
It
killing of one
doesn't.
child who's innocent, as far as I'm concerned, has to be looked at and said, wait a minute,
But
what are we doing wrong? So my question is
why-
this. So what should we, if you were king, queen, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do? And it's a tough question, but what do we do about this fact that there are people starving in Gaza who may be innocents?
Okay, I'll tell you what to do.
Thank you. No, I'm asking you.
Tell Hamas to today release every single hostage, to release every single body of Jews that they're holding. Put down your arms, forswear killing every Jew that you see, and the war will end instantly.
You know, even if you don't go that far and say,
Oh, yeah.
But I'm saying, even if you went half that way, which is provide tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, every single hostage, dead or alive, right now. I don't understand why it's almost 2 years since October 3 of 2023, and that can't be accomplished. And you know what? As tough as Joe Biden may be when he was president, and as tough as Trump is when he says he's the toughest guy in the world, I should get a Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
isn't tomorrow the United States saying, this is what's going to happen, guys, immediately? Why isn't that happening?
Because if it does happen, Hamas loses all their leverage. And they do. That's their leverage right now. We're continuing to fight. We have promised to repeat October 7th over and over as many times as we can. And they are holding these hostages in unbearable and hellish conditions. You saw the picture of that poor hostage digging his own grave
Absolutely.
when he looked like a emaciated concentration camp survivor.
So going through your principles right now, because this is actually, is this your own writing or is
No,
Okay.
it's the policy of the Israeli government. This was put out by Netanyahu
how recently?
a couple weeks, not long ago at all.
So let's
maybe
go
a
through
month.
item by item, if you wouldn't mind.
1, disarm Hamas, which essentially means stop killing Jews, stop raping and murdering and brutalizing.
So
Is that
immediate
so much to
immediate
ask?
ceasefire.
No,
More
a
than that.
ceasefire means Israel stops, okay? And that is only going to allow Hamas to rearm and resupply and do what they want. They must put down their weapons.
I meant immediate ceasefire as step number 1. But you're saying, okay, so as far as you're concerned, disarming Hamas, how do you disarm Hamas anyway?
Well, you maintain the pressure on them, number 1. You don't namby-pamby and reward them by saying, oh, we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. Because what do they learn from that? Raping, murdering, killing, kidnapping. Hey, look, we're getting a state out of it. It works. Why doesn't the world realize that? By promoting the idea of a Palestinian state unilaterally, they are promoting terrorism, rewarding terrorism, and will do nothing to achieve peace. Nothing.
This may be one of your just misinformation pieces, but
Yeah.
I don't, you haven't heard my question yet. I don't believe that Hamas is one unified leader organization. I believe there's several different aspects.
There are.
And the problem you have is just like in the United States of America, you have some people who are hawkish, some are dovish, and you have in-betweens. So I don't know how logistically you accomplish the disarming any group.
Okay, but
It's hard. I'm not sure how you do it.
I'm not a military person. I'm not sure how you do it either. But a lot of it comes from, I think, two things. One, putting the pressure on Hamas, and we all know who the leadership is, and the other group that's there, again, blanking on the name, Ariel Sharon was the prime minister.
I was going to say Sharon, but I was afraid I'd be wrong, and I didn't want to get 3 wrongs in a day.
You were right. That's the prime minister that got out of Gaza.
See, by the way, I would have 2 as number 1 on that list. But,
okay.
But the return of all the kidnapped, both alive and dead, it's just, I can't accept it.
There's no excuse.
There is
nothing.
There is no excuse.
There is nothing that justifies that.
Disarming the Strip refers to the Gaza Strip.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, refers to the Gaza Strip. It cannot continue to be a launching pad for missiles that are still being shot into the state of Israel.
How are 1 and 3 different?
Well, 1 is laying down your arms and disarming, getting rid of weapons. Disarming the Strip is, I think, referring more to the weaponry that's used to shoot into the state of Israel.
Number 4 says Israeli security control over the Gaza Strip. We left in 2000, I shouldn't say we, Israel left Gaza in 2005. So if they left in 2005, why would they want to go back in 2025?
They don't want to go back. They don't, they're not in favor of maintaining control over Gaza. What they are in favor of is maintaining security control. We cannot have an armed terrorist organization on Israel's border. It's 14 miles wide at its narrowest point. We cannot have that. You know, Israel is not against peace. What Israel is against is suicide. We're not going to do self-immolation by maintaining a terrorist radical organization sworn to kill us and eradicate the state, the only Jewish state out of the dozens of Muslim majority states. No, won't do it. We will not participate in our own suicide.
So who's going to provide the security control?
Look, the Israeli government, they've done it before, they can do it again. I'm not saying it's not Bibi Netanyahu's. I think there are going to be elections soon anyway. But there has to be a group, you know, like how would you maintain security control anywhere? Well,
what I was looking for in this list of principles is not having Israel unilaterally be in charge of these things. We need the support. We need support of the other Arab nations.
I agree.
For example, is it not true that Egypt won't let people in from Gaza?
Egypt has absolutely, and has for decades, not allowed the Arabs in Gaza to go into Egypt, just like Jordan doesn't allow them to come in from the West Bank.
Why are those 2 countries prohibiting that? Why? I mean, I'm asking these questions. Why? I know some of the answers, but
I know you do. Of course you do. But essentially, they don't want them. I mean, what other reason would there be? All this talk about, you know, our Arab brothers and supporting them and everything. Those oil-rich nations could have taken care of Gaza in 5 minutes.
Well,
but they don't.
What you've just said about the oil-rich nations, I have a theory on the solution, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
The final point before we get to that was, what was the final point there on the screen? Thank you.
Alternative civilian government. We want a democratic, self-run, not terrorist, not murderous group, institution to run Gaza. Israel left Gaza. We don't want Gaza. We just want to live.
President Trump has a plan, supposedly, about Gaza, which I think the word Meshuggah is, you know, what does Meshuggah mean, please, for the audience?
Cuckoo.
Yeah, okay. Do you have any thoughts about what would happen if the United States of America put boots on the ground in Gaza, like Trump is talking about, maybe?
Well, I don't know if that's what Trump's talking about. I will tell you unequivocally that no Israeli wants American boots on the ground in Gaza or anywhere else
And how do you think the Arabs
in
feel
Israel.
about? How do you think the Arabs would want? Well, how do you think the Arabs would feel if
They don't want it. They don't want American boots on the ground. Americans don't want American boots on the ground in the
So
Middle East.
going forward, because we only have probably about another 3 hours left in the show, but we only have another 20 minutes or so, but I want to ask you, as a person with dual citizenship, a woman of substance, a brilliant lady, which all these things are true about you, no matter what I say off camera.
Okay.
These are hard questions that the world's been fighting about. Do you have some thoughts about what maybe could or should happen to try to bring peace, other than the list of things we saw? Because I have some thoughts also, which you and I have argued about off camera for years.
There are other slanders against the state of Israel which don't exist, like Israel is a colonialist power. It's absurd, and I could later go into reasons why. That there's occupation. We didn't leave the issue of famine, and we probably shouldn't.
Take it.
Just to go back to that for a second, it is a war, and there's no doubt that the Palestinian people, that the Arabs in the Gaza Strip are suffering terribly. The suffering is caused by Hamas, and the suffering could end by Hamas. And that's what people really need to remember.
Say that again. That's a very important, because that's a point that's never, as far as I'm concerned, hit hard enough.
Of course not. It isn't. The suffering was caused by Hamas. They infiltrated out of Gaza and into the state of Israel. And we all know what happened on October 7th, and it's brutal and horrific beyond all description. Hamas is the one that can end it. Hamas is the one that needs to stop using civilians as human shields, stop building their headquarters under hospitals and civilian infrastructure. That's why Israel goes in to bomb them, because they know that there is Hamas infrastructure there. They don't want to kill civilians. They're the only country in the world that works so hard to warn civilians, get out of the area. You know, the no-knock thing? They drop a non-lethal, not a bomb, but a device on rooftops to let people know. They put out flyers. They send thousands and thousands of texts telling them when there's going to be an attack, because they know where they need to attack. No country in the world does that. No one.
On October 6th, 2023, the day before October 7th,
yes,
and you were living in Israel, you were in Israel that particular day.
I was.
You were there.
I was.
My question to you is, what was it like going between Israel, Gaza, and the other parts of Israel? Did people go day by day? Were people going from Gaza to Israel to work and vice versa?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. I think that's something that people don't know about. I don't think.
No, most Israelis did not go into Gaza. There was no reason. But there were all those kibbutzim, those communal settlements and those small towns along the Gaza border. Those were the ones that were attacked. Good question. You might ask, why were they there? Because those were the people that wanted to live in peace with their Gaza neighbors. They moved up to the border of Gaza. They were the left wing, the peaceniks. And they wanted to live there because they wanted to integrate with their Gazan neighbors.
Could people go from the Israeli side of Gaza, so to speak, into Gaza if they wanted to, before October 7th?
Before October, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and there were people that did.
And how about
there
the other
were a lot of Arab workers that left every single day. And
from where to where?
From Gaza into every city in Israel.
That's a point I think needs to be
They
made.
had jobs.
See, when you talk about misinformation, I was waiting for you to talk about that, because it was like going, I guess, from El Paso, Texas into Mexico. Is it like that? Easy?
Yeah, something like that. Absolutely. Probably a little easier. Because
Is it easier Gaza to
well, when they had a reason to go into Israel, like they were working and they had jobs and they fed their families, or they were students, or whatever, they were studying or working there, they would go. I mean, there were security concerns,
yeah.
you know, and there were checkpoints, but they went. And Israelis could go into Gaza. They didn't necessarily want to, but they could, and some did.
You mentioned the last show, I think, though, that it came out after October 7th, that some of the people who were going, let's say, to be cleaning ladies or people that worked in the fields or other kind of professional jobs, whatever,
Professionals,
were taking notes about where.
They were.
Yeah, talk about that. Talk about that's important.
It was proven that many of the people that worked in these Israeli homes that came from Gaza and were integrated into families. They took care of their children. They sat down at the kitchen table at coffee with them. They would pick them up. They would take them to their homes. They would drive them to Israeli hospitals in case they needed medical attention.
But what were the people doing, the Gaza civilians, doing while they're in someone's home? Were they taking notes and pictures?
That's the problem. They were there, they were part of the Israeli home, and they were drawing maps and telling the Hamas leadership exactly which home was protected, where there were dogs, and giving them maps where the safe rooms were. How did they know which was a safe room? You can't tell from the outside. And they firebombed them.
And that's, you know, when I was asking you before about civilians, how to define civilians, that's what I was leading into was that maybe, again, a misinformation that you're talking about is that the civilians are, quote, not so innocent. Maybe I should use the word.
Thank you for making that point. I think that is exceptionally important and is absolutely not mentioned anywhere. That
except here on my show.
Well, here on the Bobby O show.
Thank you very much.
But that is what happened, and it's been proven. We've seen the maps that that they drew to give to the Hamas leadership, that the Arabs did, to show them which house was protected, where the weapons cache was. We know that. They came in and they killed the dogs first, so they couldn't warn people or couldn't attack them. It's a fact. It happened.
With all the problems in Israel, in the Mideast right now, one might ask, I'm sure your kids might ask.
Oh, every day.
What do your grandkids call you?
Savta.
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 What's how the
grandmother in Hebrew?
Okay, Savta. Thank you very much.
When my grandson was born, he was the first grandchild on both sides. So each got to pick our name, and the other grandparents wanted something else. So I got to pick Savta, and I've been Savta ever since.
Well, my grandson, who can speak now, who's 3.5, calls me Bobby.
I know people you like that. That's great.
So
but your question.
So my question is this: you're going back September 10th.
I am.
One might say, why?
Why? Okay, I'll tell you why. And I saw this quote from the parents of a soldier that fell in Gaza, and expresses my feelings better than I could, even in the midst of their grief. So forgive me if I just quote. I'm proud, I'm happy. There is no other place. My parents grew up in Eastern Europe. They went through the Holocaust. We've seen it again and again what history has in mind for the people of Israel. We've got a land now, which is our land. It's a family. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world. This is the place. It's a beautiful country. The people are good people, and thank God we are very happy, although we have to pay a very steep price to be able to live in this country. And that was from the parents of a young man, beautiful young man, died in Gaza. I would only add to that, although that really expresses my feelings beautifully. Making Aliyah, living in Israel, is not just a dream, although it is. And it's not just a grand experiment, although it is, that a people returning, an indigenous people returning to their land after thousands of years. I believe, for me and for many others, it's a natural extension of my Jewish identity and my Jewish commitment, is that commitment to the state of Israel. I am at home there. I call it the home of my soul. And even in the middle of a war, I am at peace there, and I feel I belong.
You talked about this topic a little bit, not as eloquently as you just now, although it was very good too. But you talked about how when you went to Israel and you bought your apartment, they call it an apartment? Or
It's an apartment in a building, yeah.
Okay. It's like a condo, co-op, whatever?
No, it's an apartment building.
Okay, but you own it.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
You talked about how when you went to Israel and you got to the airport.
Yes.
Repeat that story, because I think, and your husband, your late husband,
Yeah.
was big about. Tell us about what you did when you got to the airport.
The old airport, not the new one, but the old airport had this huge sign, Bruchim Habaim LeYisrael.
Say it again slower.
It's a Hebrew. It means welcome to Israel. And it was all bright colors, a little tacky.
Not tacky, cool. I'd say cool.
I saw that sign and it hit me like a light switch, literally. And the only thing that I couldn't understand was why it wasn't so clear before. I arrived at home. I arrived at the place where I belonged. I arrived at the home of my heart and the home of my soul. And it happened immediately. I didn't lean down and kiss the ground, but I wanted to. It was a tarmac. And ever since then, my late husband used to say, boy, I arrived there, and maybe it was the air or the water, but I developed a bad case of Jerusalem syndrome right away. And honestly, I was very fortunate because living in Israel was my dream, not his. But he was so committed to me that he went along with it, and he did it to make me happy. And in the end, he was very happy about it too. He didn't get to enjoy it as much as we would have wanted, but I feel I'm living his dream as well.
In my speech I'm going to make on Sunday to Southbury Justice, I'm going to talk about what it is that we can do, not just bitching and moaning, or say in Hebrew, kvetching, right? I'm going to ask, what can we all do in America to make America more united? I'm going to ask you the question, as a person with dual citizenship, going back to Israel, what do you think you can do, if anything, to help support Israel in its terrible problem it's having now? Problems is too bad a word. It should be much stronger than that.
Yeah, but tragedies.
Tragedy, Shanda.
Shanda.
I got a few words I threw at you, right?
Did,
I'm
you
doing well.
did.
So what do you think you as an individual can do to try to make things better in Israel?
There's a very important Jewish ethic, and it's very well known. Treat your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
And that is originally from Hillel, and it was adopted by Jesus. And love thy neighbor as thyself. Be kind. Kindness is so important on an individual level, and then on a higher level. I believe that if we treat other people with respect, with dignity, all other people, and listen, not just with our ears, but with our minds, and if we see, not just with our eyes, but we watch and we absorb, we hear and we heed the other person. That can only grow and that can only help. And it is combating the disinformation and the dissension that we see so prevalent nowadays. That's what we need to do. We need to talk to one another. We need to at least try and listen. And then I think we'll find common ground. We have to, because it's our survival.
And our being not only Israel, not only the United States, it means
the world. It is our survival.
My cousin Joel Weinstein, who's many years older than I am, had a great dental practice in Monroe, Connecticut. In fact, he owned a building that was right near where Big Y is in Monroe, Connecticut.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and he left, I don't know, maybe in his late 30s, early 40s, more or less, and he emigrated to Israel. And he's been there, and he's always yells at me when he sees me and texts me or emails about why I shouldn't be, because he loves Israel. And,
I agree with him, Bob.
You know,
and you have an open invitation for dinner at my apartment with you and your family, and all come. I'll even take you around.
You don't say, that's Bobby. I don't want people to know who I know Bobby.
No. I will introduce you to everyone.
When you go back to Israel on September, I guess you'll be there September 11th, 10th, I'm not sure what day you'll land.
Yeah.
What are the first two things you're going to do?
Go home. I love going home to my apartment. I open that door. It's beautiful. It's my place. It's all mine. I go out on my balcony and I'm across the street from a school, and I see Jewish children at play where they have been for thousands of years, and it's sustaining. And then I'll say hello to all my friends in the building, and then we'll go have a cup of coffee together, and we'll go out to eat, which is wonderful if you keep kosher, because you can go out to eat all the time, which I can't do here. And I'll live. And I will go to my classes, because I take a number of Bible study, essentially, classes. I go to my Israeli dancing. I bake for soldiers every week. We bring them sweets.
What do you bake? What do you bake?
Oh, anything. Chocolate, lemon, apple, all kinds of things.
A Jewish lady, it's got to be chocolate.
You gotta
be
bake.
chocolate.
Gotta bake. And there's a group that gets together and brings the sweets to the bases. So we feed soldiers, and I do that every week. And you live.
You know, my family had the oldest bakery, I think it was in Connecticut.
Yes.
From 1917 or so to 2000 to 1974. Bakery business, the Zeisler family in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Of course.
Two lawyers, Bob and who's the other? There's a second Zeisler brother. They did bankruptcy work. They had a bakery business. We have to wrap up the show right now. It has been a real pleasure. In fact, we're going to have some conversations at my house, I think, afterwards.
Yes.
My wife, Wendy, is going to have us together, and we're going to talk some more, but it's been really a pleasure hearing your thoughts.
Thank you.
And even though I asked you questions that might seem like I was sort of speaking Socratic method with you, I have to ask the questions, but you know that I love Israel, not like you love Israel. I'll defer to you on that. But I appreciate, and I hope you have a safe trip back to Israel, and I hope to see you again, remotely or whatever, on the Bobby O Show.
Absolutely. And come. Everyone should come.
I will. That's my promise to you on this TV show, that I will be there within the next 2 years.
Excellent.
This has been Bob Potzer and the wonderful, great attorney Veronica Reich, my friend, welcome you and saying shalom, which means hello, goodbye, and peace.